Hi again. Around 1880, the rabbit and rook rifles came out. I guess they were around earlier and they called them garden guns. These were made mostly in the United Kingdom, but also in Belgium and other countries. And what characterized them was that they were almost all very elegant, very light. And when I say light, I mean very light. This is a typical early garden gun. This one's made in Belgium. If you look at it closely on the video, better not to actually, this was in sick bay, meaning it was in for repairs, but I called it back to make this video. So this is a single shot. Most of the rook rifles that you'll find, and they got rid of the rabbit most of the time. They used to be called rabbit and rook rifles, and now they're just rook rifles. But you can see how slender this rifle is, and it has a typical octagon to round barrel and sort of a wedding ring configuration on the barrel transition there. Very easy to take down. Operation is ultimate simplicity. Just push the side lever, and even after all these years, I don't know when this was made, but must have been pre-1900. It's a pretty slick little package. Now we've got some breaks happening, some pieces falling off, but hopefully the gunsmith can restore everything to former glory. And when it was in pieces, I could see the flat spring is still excellent. It's a typical hammer that works. Firing pin is good. And this one, I'll show you the bore, is obviously not a rifle. It's in 410. You can see here. Now, rook rifle collectors tend to be a very dedicated bunch, just because the rook rifle is not totally uncommon, but it's not really well known. They're just so extraordinary. There's nothing like them. I think you could probably say they're the most elegant firearm. Anyway, the fellow told me that this may well have been a rook rifle that was then bored out as the rook cartridges became more and more difficult to buy. And I'll just make a side note about the cartridges. All the rook cartridges are fantastic for small game. I always found them in a way superior to any of the rimfires that we used. And of course they were centerfire cartridges. This one here is a Riley. I'll pick it up in a second. And I use 32 Smith & Wesson long cartridges. Now that to you, or to some of you, may look like a brass case, but it's actually a loaded round, factory loaded round. You can see there is a bullet there. And the reason it looks like that is it's a wad cutter. And in case you're not familiar with wad cutters, that's a bullet that's basically a lead barrel tucked into the brass frame and brass case, and when the bullet hits the target, it makes a very clean hole. So it's excellent for target shooting, and I think wad cutters are actually quite popular. I have a pistol, an Italian pistol, that shoots the same ammunition. Anyway, this Riley shoots these with great accuracy. And in case you don't know what a rook is, it's just like a crow. It's slightly different, and their eating habits and their roosting habits are different. But these were very popular guns in their time. Holland Holland apparently developed the rook rifle. That's what people say. I own some of these that predated what became known as rook rifles, but who knows what the exact history is. So I leave it vague on purpose. The Riley is excellent, all of them center fire. And the last thing I wanted to tell you about, just in case you didn't know, the early rimfire cartridges were not bad, but fairly unreliable. I years ago visited a rimfire plant, and the way they make rimfire cartridges, because they have to get the priming compound all around the rim on the inside, no matter where the firing pin hits. It's supposed to hit primer. So the brass case is injected, for lack of a better word, with a slurry, a wet slurry of powder, and then those brass cases are spun, and the fluid on the inside contains the priming compound. So it settles around the whole bottom of the rim and then dries, and that's how they load them. But in the old days, it wasn't perfected. That plant I visited, I can't remember which company it was, although I should. They were making more rimfire ammunition than you would think the universe would need in one day. That's how popular 22 rimfire is. Anyhow, it was a very interesting tour, and I learned a lot about how rimfire cartridges are made, so I thought I'd share that with you. They were unreliable back then, or didn't exist at all, and so centerfire cartridges, which were new, let's say fairly new, were the preferred way to go. So they made all these delightful little centerfire cartridges, and the bullets tend to be big. I mean, relative to the 22 long rifle, they're big, and excellent ballistics for small game. Like I said, I always found them the most suitable cartridges for small game. But let's have a look at this Riley so you can see here how beautifully made this is. I mean, the amount of work that went into a rook rifle would probably be, you know, the equivalent of, I don't know, 5 or 10 modern rifles, but it's not really fair to compare because it's totally different. You can see there's sort of an engraving on the frame. This is a hammerless model, obviously. The one I showed you before, that potentially Belgium one with no markings, is a hammer, and it has the barrel is actually ovoid, so it's kind of egg-shaped, and then the top of I'll point it just at the camera, and then the top of the barrel, pardon the dust, these things are getting moved around so much. One of the reasons I'm making the video is because of this pandemic. I have a chance to go into sections of my collection which I ordinarily don't have a chance to, so it's actually a great time. But you can see they matted the rib with a cool system. The sights are typically quite low, just like these, and they're set for I think this one's 50 and 100 yards, and I'll open it for you. Oh, can you focus in on the safety, just because it's a checkered safety, and then there's some gold there. I'll show you the butt plate in a second. I'll spin that around just so you get a full flavor. If you ever, for these rifles, if you ever run into them, and they're decently priced, I mean, they seem to only go up in value, and no cheap piece on this particular one. Operation, very simple. Push forward and tip, and there you have the chamber. There's nothing unexpected in the operation of these, but just beautiful. And the scale is hard to describe. They're just so light and fancy, and actually unlike any other firearm. And like I said, this one's accurate with that 32 Smith & Wesson long, and you could shoot short. There's also a short cartridge. Some of them also shoot the 32 Colt, but that tends to be a little bit different diameter. And then this one I had to show you. I bought this from a fellow collector, Tom, actually just today. I had these over the years, and then for one reason or another sold them. This is the Holland Holland, probably the perfection of the rook rifle, I would say. Very sleek, shallow receiver, hammerless. All the dimensions are correct, and they took a lot of time to make each one of these. Operation is, again, very simple. Top lever, and if it sounds real simple and smooth, that's because it is. I don't know how many rounds this is fired. That one shoots the 32. The Riley shoots the 32 Smith & Wesson long, and even though I've only had this one for a few hours, this one chambers, and I did a quick casting. I'll have to do a better casting, but it looks like 38 Special will be no problem in this one with lead bullets, even though I tried one with a jacketed bullet just because. Anyway, beautifully checkered, and the butt plate, everything, just perfection firearm. Quite a long barrel on this. I didn't measure, I should have. It also has a matted rib octagonal barrel, and the sights are perfect. It all lines up, and actually in 38 Special, I mean, it can do a lot more than Harvest Rooks, that's for sure. So I thought this would be of interest to a lot of people and a lot of collectors. And there are many other manufacturers other than the ones I've mentioned. But since I have this rifle, I thought I'd throw it on the table just because it's such a fantastic piece. So this is a Martin Hagen mini action. And surprisingly, this is in 223. I mean, so that's not a Rook cartridge. It could have been 38 Special, but I don't know, for some reason 223. Beautifully made with the quarter rib and color case hardening. And you know, it's all out. It has a leather recoil pad and a beaded cheek piece. And just the works. I hope I'm not moving it around too much. Remarkable firearm. But when I first saw it, the first thing that occurred to me was it's a Rook rifle. I thought maybe it's a 22, but I didn't know whether Martin had built any with the offset firing pin. So I thought maybe it's like a 38 Special. But then once I saw it, I could see, you know, the muzzle you can see is not 38. So it's, yeah, it's 223. Actually quite a saucy little rifle. And of course this one is a falling block, which is maybe more elegant to a lot of you. You can see how it loads. Very simple mechanism. Just a perfection rifle, and closes itself, everything perfect. In case you take an interest in these, because it is a fantastic area of collecting, there's a fantastic article here, 1992. I collect these as well, so some of them are beaten up, some of them are like new. And this is the article, 1992, on page 182, The Gentleman's Companion Rifle. And I talked to, you know, people in the UK and all over the place, and they do show up, these Rook rifles. And again, if you have any chance to buy one, I invite you to try them. They're really something else. And if you think they're loud, they're actually, mostly they sound like the CCI quiet 22s, very quiet. And in case some of you have this book, I don't know, everybody should have this book or something like it. This is the 12th edition. I just got this, I think eBay. And you can see in the British cartridges section, the 360 Rook. So this would be what the Holland Holland is chambered for. But there were many different cartridges, so you really have to take a chamber casting. And I guess it was that inconvenience along with word that the cartridges were gone. And you know, most people hear that and go to the store and ask for the ammunition, and they're told it's not available. And they don't pick up the Encyclopedia of Cartridges. Maybe it didn't exist at the time. And quite frequently, if you compare bullet diameters and case dimensions, there's often a way to substitute, but of course you have to be cautious and know what you're doing. But anyhow, that is the story of the Rook rifle. And again, I always have to abridge my stories, or else I'll be here for too long. But thank you very much for watching. Please try to support the channel if you can on Patreon. Patreon's quite interesting these days, just because I'm going through my collection and sharing that. The video is a little bit longer, maybe a little tedious, but I think some people find it very interesting. But truly, any help you can provide the channel is appreciated. And obviously I ask for a reason. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Take care until then.